Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm David Yakir,
And I'm Susan Keller Horn.
and you're listening to Yak About Today, where every day is a movie day. So lean back, you can watch, or you can get up, put your headphones on, go for a run, and listen to what we yak about today.
And of course, we're yakking about the Vero Beach Film Festival again. And it's incredible filmmakers. That's who we're sharing with you today. But first, we want to tell you, go to vbfilmfest.org and look at the passes that we have available. We have passes available that are a 4-pass, where you just go and see any 4 films during the festival. We have a pass that allows you to see all the films and attend the opening and closing events. And then we have the premiere pass. That pass gives you access to everything. And we're going to have filmmakers all over town, and we're going to have a ton of fun. So please go to vbfilmfest.org and get your passes now.
And you know what I wanted to do, Susan? I wanted to introduce the opening of this show to people who don't know it. So let's play it.
Hey, welcome back to our fun Yakabat today. And we're bringing you 2 fabulous filmmakers. Our first filmmaker is Lynn Marvin Dingfelder. And we want to say hello, Lynn. How are you?
Hi, fine. Thanks for having me on. Quite the honor.
Well, your film, Saving Paradise, Artists with a Cause, was one of the films we had selected for the 2020 Film Festival that wasn't. And so I'm so excited to have you back again. Tell us a little bit about the film.
Well, it was kind of an accidental find, if you will. A friend I met at a party told me about women who painted houses. And she said, you have to do a documentary on them. And I figured, what's neat about that? I visualized, women in overalls with roller brushes and things. But it turns out that when I met them, they really are activists. They're not just artists. And I fell in love with them. 3 very special women, ranging in age from 40 to 80. And their whole cause was to save their local beach community. And what I mean by that are the cottages that were being torn down like we see everywhere in the state for high rises and big box houses. And they wanted to somehow preserve the delicate and lovely nature of the beach house, the beach cottage. And so they did that through painting them, because they were afraid that once they were destroyed, people would forget what they looked like. And that started a whole movement. So finding out about their story and what they had done, and when I met them, they had been doing this for about 15 years or so. Now it's certainly much longer, and very successful movement.
Where is this community?
I'm sorry, it's in Indian Rocks Beach.
And where
on
is that?
our side of the coast. That's in Pinellas County in Florida. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. So it's on the west coast of Florida. So from
Yes.
what I saw in this film, it seems like a community that is somewhat similar to Vero Beach. And I'm so excited that we're bringing it here. They originally started out that they just wanted to preserve the cottages by just painting. How did it evolve into actually preserving the physical cottages?
I think it was the awareness of their portraits. They're plein air artists. And what that means is that they are out on the street and they're actually painting, and they'll be there for hours. And there are 3 of them. They do very unique things called triptychs, which are each artist takes an angle of the same scenario. And then when they put it together, it's a beautiful piece of three people's art. But they also do individual pieces. But anyhow, they stand on the street and they paint the houses. So it's kind of an awareness. People see them and they're all dressed up in their hats and their flowing gowns, and they do, long skirts. And they just look very special and unique, and maybe even a little old school. And so it's a conversation piece. The tourists come over and talk to them. Locals got to know them. And everyone asks, what are you doing? Well, we're painting this cottage because it might not be here much longer. That started kind of a swirl of activism at City Hall, and locals started complaining. And the next thing you know, this art actually became a unique form of activism by inspiring people to save this beauty, preserve it. And they have.
Are the paintings ultimately for sale, and they raise
Oh,
money
yes.
for a specific cause? Can you tell us more about that?
So the paintings are for sale. In fact, they do a calendar every year that's very popular, that has an assortment of all their artwork, and they sell that. And my understanding is that out of this awareness became an actual not-for-profit, and they created the Historic Preservation Committee, and they actually now have historic preservation awards that they give out to the community for people who have done something to preserve something unique about their beach cottage. And they have big dinners and big fundraisers. And I think initially it started to stop the developers and to stop, these homes from being knocked down. And now there's this whole awareness movement, because it really is old Florida. It might even be a little older and funkier than where you are in Vero Beach. It really feels like you're back in the 50s when you go there.
I went to the University of Tampa in Hillsborough County,
Yay.
and Pinellas County was, right there. And I can't remember for sure, but I have a feeling I passed through that town. And it would have been
I'm
so
sure you
many
did.
years ago that I may have actually seen, and maybe because I was a student, did not appreciate. But I remember all the old towns up and down the coast. And what I found so interesting is up and down the East Coast, where we are, people still talk about what Miami looked like and what the beach looked like. And maybe they saved some of it with redoing South Beach, which became terribly chic. But most of it was lost along the ocean. And what was so great about watching your film is not only did you see and feel the community that once was, but I was also looking at the community today, and it seems like a relatively small community still. What's the population?
I'm sorry, I don't know that offhand. I'll find out. But it is tiny. And I can tell you that they have been very successful in terms of making this a special thing that people want to come to, bringing people back to these cottages. In fact, you mentioned the Tampa side. Many people from Tampa would go on vacation there, or have, their 2-week break.
That's right.
In Indian Rocks. It was very, very common over the years. That was the go-to place here in Tampa. So it was very easy getting interviews of people who over, several generations had gone to Indian Rocks and remembered what it was like, and extremely affordable back then, But they've done a wonderful job, not just preserving the homes, but in creating this awareness, so much so that now they actually have a little walking tour, a historic walking tour, where you can actually see the different cottages, and they have a map that they've created, and they have a historical society, which is wonderful. And it's a small but very lovely community, and people are very involved, and they love their little homes.
Well, thank you so much. We are so excited to share the film with our audience finally. It's been a few years.
And maybe we'll actually go. I think it's only a 4-hour ride to go across.
I think
we
need
would
to make
love
a road
to have
trip.
you here.
Well,
we would love to have you here.
We'll go there. You come here.
Well, thank
you.
you for the honor of showing our film at the film festival. We
No.
look forward to seeing you then.
We'll see you then.
Our
Thank you.
pleasure. We look forward to seeing you.
Thanks.
Anyway,
Bye.
before we go to break, I just want to remind everybody that New Vision Eye Center does sponsor this show and makes it possible for you to now see us. It used to be just hear us, but now you can see us because, like I always say, I wouldn't trust my eyes to anyone else.
On Oslo Road in Vero Beach, online at cwwillisfamilyfarms.com.
Hey, welcome back. I'm David Yeck here with Susan Keller-Horn, and you're listening and watching Yak About Today. So for a little chat about the film festival, I know we're pushing the film festival. It's what we have to do. But I also want to tell you that besides buying tickets on vbfilmfest.org, which you should do today, we can always use volunteers. If you're in the surrounding area of Indian River County, it takes a lot of people and a lot of help to put on a film festival. So we always welcome new volunteers. And I think there's a sign up on one of the pages. If you go to vpfilmfest.org and go to the menu, I think you'll find a section for volunteers. And of course, to all the businesses out there that are actually listening or watching us, it would be great if you thought about sponsoring the festival, because that's what makes it possible for us to put on all these great films. Anyway, Susan, I want to introduce somebody, Vince Williams, director of Prepare for Launch. And this is an exciting sort of astronaut film. And welcome, Vince.
Thank you.
Vince.
Thank you for having me.
So, Vince, the story. This is something that I'll bet you anything, nobody knew this story. So tell us about it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've dealt with this film. I've dealt with so many NASA experts, and they don't know this man's story, which I think is really what makes it the most unique. And it is a story that really, I mean, you guys have seen the film, that really should be told, because he was a part of the Apollo 19 graduating class of NASA, and he was very involved in the entire process of
He being John Bull, right?
He being John Bull, he being John Bull, and getting men on the moon, and which is, these men are such heroes. They're really the modern day superheroes. They're real life heroes, and their intelligence is incredible. Their physical abilities are incredible, and then what they had to go through with the space race to get that accomplishment for the United States was, in history. I mean, just an incredible accomplishment in history. So the film really looks at that aspect of it and how they had to go through all of these things in the NASA training gauntlet, as we call it, to get to that accomplishment. And it's John Bull's experience and his family's experience. The reason that he is so not known or not recognized is because I think that like all of us, I think this is how the story relates to all of us. He had downfalls in life, and how did he come out of that in the end? And I think that's where the story was kind of birthed from. It's kind of birthed from the pandemic in a way, which it's people that we're all experiencing this. What are the next steps? This is very, this is a very hard time for everyone, and eventually we're all going to come out of it and be a success. And I think it, coupled with NASA and coupled with that's where this story was birthed from. And I think it really makes John Bull relatable to everybody. It really makes an astronaut relatable to everybody, because again, they are just this superhuman thing. It's like, I don't relate with an astronaut. As a filmmaker, I was like, I don't relate with an astronaut. I don't know. But when I found his story, I personally, as a director and a writer, I really related with his story on a lot of levels.
What I thought was very interesting about his story was how much he had to give up of his own family and his own family life in order to make all his accomplishments, and then his whole world changed. That's so integral to your story. I love that. How did you come up with that? Like, did you know that about him, or where did you find that?
There isn't much known about him, to be honest with you. There isn't much written. There's a little bit here and there. There's some biographies that address his family. So there's a few chapters in some books that say, it's just basically research, and say like what this time was like for him. And I think that ultimately with his family, and this is and there's a lot of NASA films that are made, but ultimately with his family, the families are on this journey too. And I think whenever you have anything that happens to a family member, the entire family's going through it. So the wife, the son, and what are their reactions to it, and how did they support this person in their time of need? And so I think, again, it's all kind of just universal truths that are applied to this fantastical NASA story that hasn't been told yet.
Are there any, is the son still around?
There are a couple children. I have talked to a couple of the children. Yeah.
And how, on a different subject, you're 23 years old, which shocked me when I saw this film because I did not expect such an incredible film from a 23-year-old. But how did you score getting Jacob Young as your lead? He's an Emmy-winning actor.
Yeah, I will say Jacob Young was such an incredible talent to work with. He's been in the industry forever, mainly from soap operas, but he's done The Walking Dead recently, and he's such an incredible actor and leader. We were actually we had this idea, and we pulled up an actual picture of John Bull on the computer, and another filmmaker was kind of walking past, and they saw a picture of him, and I think we were just saying, we need somebody that looks like this guy, like, because this is a biopic. And she was like, Melissa Howard, and she was like, well, I have Jacob Young on speed dial. We're like, what in the world? And so I was talking to him that night, and he was a fan of NASA. He was all gung-ho about it. He was just like, I'll do whatever it takes to be in this film. I think it's an incredible story. And he pulled in Amanda Baker, who's worked with before, to be the wife. And then we got McTeer Parker and Ethan Poe to play the son. And they were all just so amazing to work with from the beginning. They really just were listening to my vision for the project and on board with every single little nuance. I think it's a very nuanced film in terms of the emotions and the cinematography and all of that. We worked so hard to get all that in line, and the actors were just the best thing for me about the whole project, to work with them, and a pro like Jacob Young. He was such a leader to the rest of the actors. It was just a great experience with him.
Vince, I always ask this question one way or another. So every once in a while we see a short, and a short like this, where you want to learn so much more detail about the characters, their life. Did you ever think of maybe making this into a full length?
Absolutely. That was a thought. I think early on. We didn't really know how we were going to do it. We do have a feature written for it. Between now, which is kind of the world premiere, is going to be the Vero Beach Film Festival. But between the short film and now, we do have a feature film written for it. Jacob Young has been incredible. He was kind of the one that inspired the feature and said, hey, you know what? I've got a lot of connections. I've been doing this for years, and I come from the documentary world. So for me, to be, and that's why this biopic is relevant to what I do. And but when he was like, yeah, let's do this, I was like, okay. We'll write a feature. The feature screenplay definitely has got some eyes on it too. So yeah, we're hoping. I mean, I think there's so much more that can be told about this story. And it, like I said, it is so nuanced and detailed that there are a lot more details we can get into with the story. But ultimately, I think that the short, the short tells it as well, I think, and it tells it in a pretty impactful way. I'm super happy with how it represents John Bull and who he was, and gets his story out there. I think that's the most important thing, is that he is somebody that isn't recognized, and it brings recognition to, an American hero.
And was it difficult to make this on a low budget? Because that's what you basically told us ahead of time. And you had to recreate NASA and the space capsule. How did that all come about?
Yeah, this is the reason why I never really approached the film before this, because to say like we need to film in a space capsule and we need to be at NASA is like, how in the world do you do that on a small budget? It was the reason why I was like, there's just no way this film could ever get made. But I think when we kind of found John Bull's story, I was just so inspired by it that I just started doing research, and I found almost every capsule that we could ever film in. We even contacted people in LA for capsules that had been made previously, but ultimately we found a guy in the Atlanta, Georgia area that actually, again, he was just a NASA enthusiast, and he built the command module by spec in his garage.
Wow.
Through 3D printing. So he had the actual life-size command module in his garage, and all of the switches, everything, the lights, everything worked on this thing. And you could literally just sit in the seats, and it was the command module to spec. And so he had let someone else film in it, and I was just like, can you, we really, to make the film even happen, we need this piece. And he was so willing to do it. And Bill Walker, he was just amazing to work with. He was so intelligent about the lingo and is this right? Is this right? Would they have hit this switch? Everything is true and real in the film. So
we have to cut it now. We're out of time. The radio station will kill us if we go over.
No problem.
We want to thank you. We want to hear more of the story, and hopefully we'll hear it when we see you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So remember, vbfilmfest.org. Buy your tickets there. Join the festival. There are parties. There are dinners. There are great lectures, great panels. It'll be an extraordinary experience. So please make your way down here, no matter where you're from. And Susan.
Thank you. Yes. And don't forget, you can also volunteer for the festival. And it's not just during the festival. We definitely need you during the festival if you're a volunteer, but we also will be marketing the festival at various events. So please go on to vbfilmfest.org and look up our volunteer opportunities, look up our passes. We look forward to seeing you soon.